The rules of business and society have changed, and Mishcon de Reya stands at the forefront of this change, championing the innovation ecosystem at the heart of Cambridge. Discover what you can do with the law of tomorrow today at mishcon.com.
Welcome to the Cambridge Tech Podcast, talking all things technology from the heart of the UK's tech capital. Here are your hosts, Faye Holland and James Parton.
Hi, I'm James.
And I'm Faye. So, James, have you got any work done this week?
No, these no is the short answer. I'm in the third week of my seeming sabbatical from working. Yeah, after the COVID and
Did you actually just say that? Did you just say that on the podcast?
Yeah, no, the evidence is clear and everyone at the Bradfield will confirm it. So yeah, after my COVID and my little music festival the week before that, I had another little trip up north actually. The only thing I can kind of claim was work related was we went to Manchester, so it gave me an opportunity to soak in Manchester, which we've been talking a lot about on the podcast. And oh my god, the amount of development and investment pouring into Manchester was just absolutely mind-blowing. Everywhere you look, there's developments everywhere. It's so impressive.
I mean, that's my old stomping ground, and every time I go up there I'm like, where has it gone? You know, I actually find it quite hard to identify some places now because there is so much development, but it's good progress.
And it's not just concentrated in a small area. It's, we were riding the trams across the whole city for a couple of days and it's literally everywhere. It's like miles and miles of new development. It's unbelievable.
No, well, very good. Well, like we said, I'm sure we'll be up there at some point on a bit of a tour.
So enough of my slacking. How's your week been?
So let's think. I went to my first summer garden party, let me tell you, courtesy of Mills and Reeves, which was lovely. Nice to go and see that team. Some of their clients, just different people from Cambridge and beyond, actually. I walked in with a lady from Coots who'd come up from working in London. So, there's a real variety of people there. So that was nice. And there are many more coming as well. So it's definitely summer party season. We've been behind a couple of the news stories this week, which we're going to go through the news in a moment. So we've been pushing those out to the media near and far, which has been great. And we also launched a new brand for a US pharma tech client. So you can imagine that was lots of nights after midnight on a deadline. So, always busy.
I wouldn't expect anything else. I promise next week I will do some work. Actually, next week I'm going to London Tech Week. So there's another 3 days out of the Bradfield Centre, but I will come back with my take on London Tech Week for the podcast.
Okay, brilliant. We shall look forward to that. So should we get on with the news then? First up, we have Cambridge GaN Devices, the fabulous clean tech semiconductor company that develops energy-efficient GaN-based power devices that make greener electronics possible. And they are partnering with Nasdaq-listed Qorvo, a leading global provider of connectivity and power solutions, to develop a reference design and evaluation kit that showcases GaN for motor control applications. So it's great to see them branching into different industries as well.
Cambridge technology company Checkit plc could pay around $12 million to acquire fellow UK business Crimson Tide. It's approached the Crimson Tide board with a bid, and Checkit plc specialises in augmented workflow and smart sensor automation for frontline workers.
So that's definitely an interesting one to watch. We've had quite a few approaches to boards of late, some of them being more successful than others. So good luck with that conversation. Cambridge auto tech pioneer SecondMind has scooped yet another major award, this time in Germany. The company won the Alternative Powertrain Test Innovation of the Year at the Automotive Testing Technology International Awards. The SecondMind for calibration application for e-powertrain was recognised for significantly improving testing efficiency, reducing test bench occupancy and slashing data requirements for its customers. Winners colours were unveiled at the Automotive Testing Expo Europe 2024 in Stuttgart.
And attendance levels for the 2024 Cambridge Wide Open Day, which is on Wednesday, the 12th of June, are already set to double the numbers of last year's inaugural event. O2H Group, which is organising the event, have persuaded some world-class life science and technology companies, plus relevant associated organisations, to open their doors to visitors. The full schedule for the event is now available on the Cambridge Wide Open Day website, along with details of an organised minibus tour around the venues. So, if you fancy hot-footing it to Cambridge to see behind the doors of its many businesses, we'll see you there.
Indeed we will. And then the final exciting local news this week was that Cambridge Science Centre has finally announced their new home location. And to celebrate this, we're very timely and we invited CEO John Bull and Trustee Amy Weatherup to come and join us on the show to tell us more. So welcome both to the podcast. Let's start with introductions. John, do you want to go first?
Yeah, hello. My name's John Bull. I'm CEO of Cambridge Science Centre, an amazing charity here in Cambridge that's all about connecting young people with science, technology, engineering and maths and all the brilliant things that can bring to their lives.
Perfect. Thank you. And Amy?
Hello, I'm Amy Weatherup. I've been a trustee at the Cambridge Science Centre for just over 2 years. And in my day job, I run a programme called iTeams at the Engineering Department of the University of Cambridge. Before then, I was an entrepreneur running technology startups.
Perfect. And Amy, we've got you back on the podcast, I think at the start of summer, to talk about the work that you do within iTeams as well. So we'll hold that for the moment. And this time, we're really just going to be talking to you about Cambridge Science Centre. So, John, Amy, the cat is finally out of the bag. Some news has been announced this week. Would you like to share with us what that news is?
Yeah, we're absolutely thrilled to say that our latest experience is going to be taking place at Cambridge Science Park. We're moving in to part of the Trinity Centre, a place that I'm sure many of you know and love very fondly. We'll be giving it a new lease of life. We'll be bringing in energy of children, young people, families and communities as we take over 6,000 square feet of that space. We're going to install 20 plus brand new exhibits, which are all about exploring science, technology, engineering and maths and learning together.
It's great to have you as neighbours moving in just next door. So how exciting. I know, Trinity has been long focused on how it can make the park more accessible to people. So this is fantastic news. How's the relationship been with Trinity?
Absolutely like a dream, to be perfectly honest. We're so excited about being in Cambridge Science Park because it's such a hub of activity, such a hub of life. There's 7,000 people working here, as you know, and it's right in the heart of some of the most interesting and deserving communities of Cambridge. You just have to look just outside to King's Hedges, not far to Arbury Abbey. Really, really interesting kind of meeting space. And we've been working closely with Trinity College to work out new ways that we can make this a real connecting place for all people from all sorts of different walks of life, of different ages, and with different experiences of science, technology, and engineering and maths, where they can come together here and have meaningful, enjoyable, inspiring activities, right at the heart of this place, which is fired by the work that's taking place in the businesses here, the work that's happening in the university itself, and all brought together to kind of see bright new horizons for even more people.
And as well as Trinity College, there's also other partners that have been vital to making this a reality on the Science Park. Could you tell us a little bit about them?
In principle, we love working in partnership with industry and academia because it brings reality to what we do. We can take cutting edge science, new innovations, and connect them to the communities around in ways that lead to something new and special. And we're really pleased to be working with, of course, Trinity College, Cambridge, but also LifeArc, Brockton Everlast and ARM to make this a reality, alongside the work of our Executive Council who supported us for many years. So you'll see experiences for schools, new exhibits which explore some of the topics which are at the heart of the work that they're doing, whether that's life sciences or computing, and to take that and to take it to those new audiences.
So, this is obviously fantastic news in terms of the latest chapter. But why don't we take a step back and delve into the history? Tell us how, CSC started and what the mission is.
So it started just over 10 years ago. We had our 10th anniversary last year, which was a wonderful event, because some of the local successful angel investors asked, why don't we have a science centre in Cambridge? Here we are as the tech innovation hub of the country, and we haven't got a science centre. So being entrepreneurs, they decided to set that up, and that was David Cleveley and Robert Sansom and a number of others. And David Cleveley's been the chairman ever since.
And how's it evolved over time?
So we started off with the centre in Jesus Lane, which a number of people will still remember.
Yep.
And that was set up with portable exhibits so that they could go out and about. And actually the founder was Chris Leonard, who's also still on our board. And his concept was that you shouldn't just have a rigid science centre where people had to go in. You should have portable exhibits that you could take out to schools, you could take out to events, so you could bring science to where people actually were, as well as having that centre for people to go to. And the very first exhibit was the wind tunnel, which I think is still our most popular exhibit. I remember seeing that in the engineering department right at the beginning of the days of the Cambridge Science Centre. So we had a physical location in Jesus Lane. We then moved to Clifton Court near the junction. And then post-COVID, we made the quite difficult decision to move away from having a physical location until we could find the perfect location. And we were quite surprised and pleased at how quickly we were able to do that, because it could have taken much longer.
I mean, impact is obviously a question I'm sure that you get asked a lot. How many young people have benefited from this in the 10 years?
Just a little over 500,000 young people so far. We see around 50,000 every year in all sorts of different environments. It's really important, as Amy said, that we become part of people's lives. So you'll see us, yes, in our core venues like Jesus Lane and here at the Science Park in the future, but you'll also not be surprised to find us popping up in local communities, appearing on the high street, turning old and disused retail units into thriving hubs of learning for families altogether. That's what we do. We want to break down those barriers between people and science, technology, engineering and maths, because they're artificial. They're not really there in reality. As soon as you show that science is fun and science is inspiring and science is about discovery and innovation, which are things that are all very playful in nature for adults and children alike, suddenly you're creating something that lets people see themselves and the world around them differently.
So I want to come on to where you pop up and, you know, what the work that you do in different areas a little bit later on. But actually what I want to do now is go back to what the problem is that you're addressing. So, Amy, you've just said, you know, there was the question of why on earth don't we have a science centre in Cambridge? We really should have. You've got things like Universities UK putting out reports saying that we need 1.9 million STEM professionals in 2035. So we have to be inspiring the next generation. But actually, there's also the huge problem of inequality and addressing those barriers, which is what you're really trying to do. So do you want to just expand on what the issues are?
There are a number of connected and complex issues which are essentially work to prevent lots and lots of young people from getting engaged with science, technology, engineering, and maths in ways which are, to me and many others, troubling and sad. We're not seeing a workforce and a group of young people studying STEM who are representative of the UK population as a whole. And that's an absolute tragedy, and it's unfair and something that we really passionately believe we have to challenge. So it's not hard to look to see groups that are excluded. So, for example, Engineering UK just came out and said only 12% of girls say that being an engineer fits well with their vision of who they are and where they want to be. 36% of girls are saying science just isn't for them. If you take a different angle, you can see that black students are underrepresented in STEM. Back in 2020-21, only 2.6% of students who were studying physics were black. And young people from all sorts of backgrounds that are excluded just are not being sufficiently supported by the formal education system to get into just the vibrant communities of STEM that are here. And for me, I think there's an issue here, certainly about equality, certainly an issue about fairness. And I think this is one that we believe we can play a tangible role in changing. Because one of the biggest barriers is around negative stereotypes associated with science, false barriers which when you examine them, are not really there. So, for example, one thing that stops a lot of young people getting engaged with science, technology, engineering, maths is this myth that science is hard. It's super hard. It's harder than any other subject that you might do at school. And sadly, that's often reinforced within the system. And of course, it's not true. And we need to be supporting young people. I know stories of young people who have been passionate about science at school and have been deterred from studying, triple science and said, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's too hard. You might fail. Instead of lifting young people up and saying, you can fail. You can. Well, yes, you can. Actually, it was a mistake, but I mean it. Yes, you can fail. And failure's good. It's part of the process. It's part of how we could develop, and don't be afraid of that. And we need to create a field, a system where people, especially young people who feel excluded, see people who look like themselves, where they engage in science which is hands-on and inspiring and leads to results and leads to the confidence that they need. And the only way that we can do that is together, in partnership with academia, with education, with industry, and showcasing the brilliant stuff that's happening and connecting it to young people in a way that they experience it and they walk away from that saying, I want to do more of that. I'm going to do that. And we need to be there to support them. And Cambridge Science Centre wants to be part of that.
And is it true that by the age of 11, many young people have decided that STEM isn't for them? That's really, really young, right? So your interventions, your inspiration needs to be happening really early in that kind of educational journey for them.
Well, we go all the way back to preschool. So last year we had a STEM tots activity in the Grafton Centre that was hugely well attended. I think over nearly 4,000 children came through that between the ages of 3 and 5 with their parents. And the nice thing about interventions at that stage, which was the first time we tried it, is that you get the parents involved too. So a lot of things that happen in schools are just the children. And then if the parents don't have experience of science, they can't support that. So the nice thing about the early stage is you've got the whole family there. And that was so popular. That's definitely something we're looking to do again in the future.
There's this concept called science capital, which is all about kind of your personal connections and knowledge and interest in science. You can imagine like every one of us carries around a bag and we fill it full of the people we know who do science, all of the stuff we're learning in school about science, all of our knowledge about how important science is to the wider world. And those of us who've got full bags have been fortunate and privileged enough to fill that bag up. We've got loads of science capital. The opportunities for us are greater to get involved in STEM. But sadly, some people have got small bags of science capital, and perhaps some people have got holes cut in the bottom of their bags, and all of that valuable stuff just trickles away. So what we work to do throughout the ages is to build that science capital, to make it more likely that young people are going to want to stay connected with science. And as Amy said, there's no reason or why that shouldn't start when they're straight out the womb. We want to be them to be talking about science. We want to have conversations between parents and children in their early years that are about measuring, about comparing. All these things are valuable. And yes, you're quite right. By the age of 11, it's an absolute key point. That transition from primary to secondary school is an absolute pivotal point in young people's lives where they say, well, science isn't for me, it's too hard, the teacher said I can't do it. Or they say, oh, I've never seen anybody who looks like me being a scientist, they all look like Einstein, I don't look like that can't be me. We need to break down those kind of things that are crushing young people. And what's important for us as a charity is that we work with young people across that pipeline, their entire childhood and into early adulthood, because there are different needs and different kind of key opportunities to, push and poke and say, oh, you might want to go that way. Look at this opportunity. And, early years, that might be about cognitive development. For primary years, yes, it's about saying, actually STEM could be for you. For teenagers, it can be more about challenging some really negative stereotypes that see lots of girls saying science isn't for me, for example, and raising, awareness of the real life applications. So all through that pipeline. And what matters is that you're crafting opportunities that kind of can be layered, can be deep, can have both light and profound impacts upon people. And so actually one of the things that I really love about the work that we do is that those profound impacts, sometimes they happen in a blink of an eye. There are those moments, the light bulb moments. What we try and do is bring the joy of science into kids' lives. So you see their eyes light up, you see the smiles, you see hear spontaneous laughter and clapping, and that's what we need. And we need, that to be underpinned by a clear understanding and clear pathways. But, we should never stop that excitement, that passion, which I know has led lots of your listeners into their careers in STEM.
Absolutely, yeah. And you mentioned there that you are a charity. So walk us through how that works. As well as, I guess, the energy that you have to put into developing the interventions, you've also got to be out there fundraising, which must be really tough in the current economic climate. So how does that work, and who are your supporters?
We're really privileged to be here in Cambridge. I've come from other cities here in the UK and the world, and nowhere's quite like this place, particularly its interconnectedness. So that's the thing that supported this charity throughout this 10-year journey and onwards. It's interwoven nature of the unique industry, academia, education systems, community services, etc., all come together. So in terms of the way that we work, as Amy mentioned, we initially grew up out of this need, and a number of the angels like David supported us through a period of growth. And we've been lucky over the period of that the entire life of the charity to bring along with us like-minded organisations who share that vision of a changed world, of greater access and innovation from all young people. And we have groups of corporate supporters who we call our executive council in organisations like AstraZeneca, for example, who've been with us on that journey for the entire 10 years, and MathWorks, the same here on the park, who share our vision of greater inclusion, and they work with us to underpin our core costs. We're really proud of the fact that almost all of our money goes directly to beneficiaries. They goes directly straight through to the young people who benefit from this work, but we need to pull that together centrally. We need to develop new resources, new activities, new hands-on exhibits, for example, to keep that alive, exciting, talking about new topics like AI, for example, and translating that into the things that we do. But also we work more broadly with other organisations, grant giving and educational charities who support the work that we do, that underpin it because they see the social change that we're facilitating, and the social mobility issues that we're tackling, and the inclusion opportunities that we bring to science, technology, engineering and maths. And those things come together into kind of this big melting pot of opportunity, of linking to cutting edge science, linking to the communities of need, and building relationships. And we use that funding very carefully to make sure that we can kind of build meaningful interventions. And many of those interventions have lasted absolutely years. So one that we're particularly proud of is with a community group called the North Cambridge Community Partnership, who work out in Arbury, doing amazing work for communities out there in enriching their lives. And over the past 3-4 years, we've been working consistently, running science engineering clubs in the evenings and the afternoons for young people of that community, showing them that they can be scientists, that they can be engineers. At the moment, we're working with young people from Homerton, their Changemakers program, and students from Homerton are leading amazing activities on robotics, which the kids are just loving, and they're seeing that they can build a future that could be different. So we piece together those activities, which lead us to kind of take a broad approach to hitting lots and lots of young people, but also layering in additional supports for those communities that need it. And that's often about building trust, building relationships, confidence, showing that we understand the needs of communities because we listen. And also, really importantly, investing in making sure that young people have a really strong say in what the organisation as a whole does. And we've come up with some really exciting ways of doing that recently.
Perfect. Now, you just mentioned AstraZeneca and MathWorks. I know that there were quite a few others mentioned in the recent release of the new location. So you've mentioned ARM, ARU, Bruntwood SciTech, Cambridge Consultants, CEMEX, KO Data, to name but a few. But Amy, I wondered if you could tell us, what do you actually need from them? Is it, going back to the funding thing, is it money? Is it expertise? Is it a mix of both?
It's definitely a mix of both. So yes, as a small charity, we always need funding to help build the future path of the charity and also maintain what we currently have. But it's also that passion and the word of mouth about what we're doing. So by being here in the science park, we're hoping that we can bring in some of that passion from the people on the park, both to bring children into the centre, bring audiences into the centre, but also hopefully volunteer and provide input and expertise to what we do.
Building on from that, you yourself are a trustee, you're giving your time to help in the development of Cambridge Science Centre. Over the last 18 months, you've also made some new additions to the trustees. So Jason Mellard, Bruno Cotter, most recently Harriet Fear. Can you give us a little bit of an insight into what it's like being a trustee? Who else is on there? What do you get out of your involvement?
I think as trustees, the thing we all share is a passion about science and technology and about ensuring that the next generation is able to engage in that way. So we all have different backgrounds. We have Jason Mellard, who runs Start Code On and obviously has a background in life sciences. We have Bruno Cotter, who was at the business school. We have Douglas Cuff, who was another recent trustee, who's actually a property developer. But we all bring different skills and experiences. So we also have James Marsh, who's a lawyer, and then Chris Leonard, who's the original founder of the centre, and David Cleveley, who's the original chair. So to go back to the question of what the role of a trustee is, trustees are really important in any charitable organisation. Their role is to oversee the work of the charity, to make sure it stays focused on what we said the aims were when we started, and to have the financial and strategic oversight of the charity and what its aims are and what its future plans are. So it's actually been quite a busy time since I've been a trustee. It's only been less than just over 2 years. But in that time, we had to plan our recovery from the COVID lockdowns. We recruited John, which is a fantastic hire, to bring him in as CEO. And we closed down our old centre, and then we've been fortunate to find this new site really quickly and open up our new centre, and also adopt the strategy of going out with the pop-ups into the Fens, into places like Wisbeach and Ramsey, where we've had amazing feedback. So the trustees as a whole work with John and the team to set that direction, make those big decisions, and then monitor what we're doing and ensure that it remains effective over time, because 10 years is a long time. What we did at the beginning might not be what we should be doing now. And in fact, it has changed and evolved and kept up with the needs of the audiences. The board's been quite carefully constructed to make sure that everyone has different skills and background and expertise, but we all share that passion for science and science education. One additional thing we've done recently, and we're really proud of, is we joined an organisation called the Young Trustees Movement. And the aim of that is to bring younger people into trustee boards, not just lots of people in their 50s with grey hair. And they define young as being between 18 and 30. And actually, one of our science communicators came up with the idea that this was something that we should do as a charity. And we all jumped on board and thought it was an excellent idea. So we've been running quite an extensive recruitment process to find a young trustee between the ages of 18 and 30. And we had more applications for the role than I've ever seen for any role in my entire career. It was absolutely astounding, the breadth, the number of applications, and also the high quality of applications. So I really want to encourage other charities, if people are listening, to look at this, to look at the idea of bringing in someone younger with less experience, but who definitely in our case is much closer in age to our target audience than any of the other trustees. And also brings a different perspective. The world changes fast. And just because you don't have years of experience doesn't mean you can't add huge value. And as I said, we were so blown away by the quality of applicants. And we've appointed a wonderful lady called Serena McMillan, who's a researcher at the university in life sciences, to be our young trustee. And she's been to her first meeting, and she's already contributed in her first meeting, which is no mean feat when you're in a room of distinguished Cambridge people who talk a lot. So we're really excited with that.
I'm absolutely thrilled that Serena's joined us, because she's representative of a really important commitment of the charity, and that's about empowering young people to have a genuine say in what we do. So we're not doing things to them. What we're doing is we're working in partnership. We're really driven by this idea of co-development, of co-production of experiences. And that means that we work really carefully in depth to hear what it is that matters to the young people that we work with. And we have structures that support that on a tactical level, like youth panels where we consult and we say, we're going into the Trinity Centre soon. Do you think that's a good idea? How might we make that more appealing? How could we craft out the opportunities for you? All the way from that tactical level up now, I'm really thrilled to say, to the strategic level. So they'll be able to feed through the process from from on-the-ground delivery all the way through to our setting our strategy. And that's absolutely fundamental to the continued success of what we do in changing lives.
And the key part is really that democratization of science. So it's not just available to people whose parents already work in it. It's available to everybody. It's available to people who maybe their parents would never take them to a science centre, and that's why we go into the schools. That's why we do the pop-ups in the fens, which I think we'll talk about more later. And it's about making sure that everyone understands why science is exciting. I think schools do their best, but they're working within a fixed curriculum, and it's very easy for science to appear to be a long series of facts that you have to learn. And that's often why young people find it boring, because they think it's just lots of stuff to learn. But actually, science is a process. It's a scientific method. And anyone can discover something new through scientific method. You don't need any background knowledge at all. You just need a hypothesis, which means something that you think the world might do. And then you need to design a way of testing that hypothesis to see if it works. And you can do that at any level and at any stage. And there's a lot of really good work that goes on actually at primary level in schools, where they start trying to get the kids to say, you know, what happens if I fill up a balloon and how do I measure this, and really cool things like that. But the depth, the breadth and the size of the science curriculum in secondary often precludes that happening. So science is exciting when you discover something new for yourself. That's what makes it exciting, when you discover something new. And we try and bring that spark back through the Science Centre.
Amazing. So to jump back to the news of this week, you've now got a permanent home. How does that change what you can do? What does the kind of near and long-term future look like?
The really exciting thing about this base is the way that we can craft new experiences and the way that we can segment for different audiences to really, really meet their needs and open up new depths of engagement. So, for example, we broadly think about three major audience groups that are going to be coming to us here in the science part. The first one is, of course, schools. And we'll be doing our great work in enhancing the curriculum and enlivening learning and bringing giant dinosaurs and explosions and squidgy foam and goopy stuff to that teaching, which resides in the minds of the kids forevermore, and and who knows where it'll lead them. And that's incredibly important. But we'll also have this base for working every single afternoon with communities who face additional barriers to getting. So having that space where we can invite people in specially, where we can craft bespoke opportunities that meet their additional requirements. So, for example, we might be running quiet afternoons, where we reduce the stimulus in the space, where it works better for kids who are neurodivergent so that they can engage in different ways. Or we might be inviting in the local Cubs and the Scouts and the Rainbows and the Brownies in the afternoons. Or we might be working with young people from King's Hedges who've walked in for the first time ever, perhaps, just across from the other side of the park, and they're coming in and they're exploring and, they're doing something fun, or there's a birthday party. We'll be moving around those opportunities to really try something different. And often that leads us to running really long-term projects with communities like the North Cambridge Community Partnership that we mentioned, but also other groups like Home Educators, where we're able to kind of dedicate an experience to specific needs and really round that out and do something that leads to something tangible at the end of it that's quite different. And then importantly as well, our third audience that we're really going to be focusing on, which I think many, many people listening today are going to fall into, is family visitors. We believe that science is fun, and I'm sure that's not going to be a hard sell on this podcast, but it is fun. We've been bigging that up because too many people say the opposite. There's nobody out there saying, who does science in their spare time? Everybody listens to music in their spare time and does it at school. Nobody thinks that's strange. But why are people not doing science in their spare time and thinking that that's fun and enjoyable? Well, now they've got the opportunity to do that. So we want to build a community of family visitors who are dropping into us time and time again to see what we're doing new in the summer, to launch a rocket, to come back and try something in the new an enormous wind tunnel that we've built in the space, and to really feel part of that kind of community of learning together and enjoying that. So That's how it will be different. And also it gives us that opportunity to kind of run that and embed that while we continue doing many of our other work out in communities of need. We're not going to stop doing that because there are other barriers that will stop some communities who are, say, geographically distant or face other barriers to getting here. So we're still going to be out there in local communities, but we're going to be able to keep both running in tandem, which is just fabulously exciting for us.
So when we had our old centre and you would go in and you would see how the children are interacting with the exhibits, it's all about play and exploration. Even if you just put them in front of the wind tunnel and you show them the first thing, which is to make a bit of paper with a paper clip on and you put it in and it goes up, they will just naturally then go, what if I change where the paperclip is? What if I put 3 paper clips on? What if I do a bigger bit of paper? Nobody has to tell them that that's a scientific experiment or that's how science works. They figure it out for themselves. They naturally ask those questions. And I think the skill of the staff at the Science Centre is how you create the environment so they will naturally do that and actually ask those questions and have the flexibility to do things we didn't expect them to do, because that's always key.
Thanks. That's a great example, Amy. So, John, back to you. There are all these people, the communicators that are behind the exhibits and, really powering the centre. Tell us a little bit more about who they are and what they do.
They're an enormously diverse bunch, actually, who represent different fields of scientific knowledge, who represent different routes into that. So we've got people who've been active researchers in the field and have decided that actually what they really want to do is be talking to young people and children about what matters to them. We've got people who come more from a community engagement background, who've seen the needs in the communities firsthand and have lived that experience and can see how that they could translate the stuff that's happening here into meaningful experiences for young people. We've got people who have worked in science centres and museums elsewhere in the country and have seen how brilliant the power of storytelling that happens in science centres can be in kind of creating new visions of new possibilities and new worlds. We have people who love working with toddlers, who love working with teenagers. And what's really important to us is that we have this kind of mix. And they see themselves and I see them as kind of co-explorers of learning with young people. So, they're not teachers, they're people with a foundation of knowledge which they use not so much to pass on that knowledge, but to kind of inspire young people to take it further themselves.
I also wanted to add, from the point of view of the trustee board, the role of communicator is really a highly skilled one. It sounds easy, stand up in front of a group of kids and do some fun experiments, and isn't that great? But they're actually highly skilled educators, and they're capable of working with the groups of children, whether it's a school group coming in or just a few people coming in with their families, to actually build that culture of questioning and experimentation and bring out the excitement in the children. And I think I always want to make a big shout out to our communicators, because they're absolutely critical to the success of the centre.
The communicators are without a doubt the strongest asset that the charity has, in that it's them that take the topics that rise out of industry and academia and work to translate them into what's going on and what are meaningful explosions and explorations, and that's what makes us tick.
I mean, the enthusiasm and the passion is infectious. I mean, I'm sure listeners will want to get involved. I think I'm going to be wandering over on a regular basis. So you've got a lot of different audiences to reach out to: schools, families you mentioned, businesses, volunteers. How do people get involved?
So many opportunities here. So personally, please bring your kids to the Science Centre. We're going to be great for little ones all the way up to early teens, and then special programmes for older teens as well. So come and become a member of the charity. Support us in what we do. Please do buy an annual membership, and we'll offset a certain proportion of that money to work directly with communities where finances are a barrier, and it'll help us pop up and continue the good work that we do. And I guarantee you're going to have the greatest time, and you're going to find that your young ones are wanting you to come back again and again, and hopefully you will too, because I'm telling you, Amy mentioned some of these exhibits, but they're super fun and they're all open-ended. So there's each time you come, you can do something new, and your little one will show you, look what I thought of last night that we can try. We can break it in this way. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. And it's going to be brilliant. From another perspective, we're really interested in finding new ways of telling the stories of all the exciting innovation that's happening here in Cambridge. And I know many of you will be directly involved in that. And we could only do that in partnership with the organisations that are doing it. So reach out to us. Tell us what you're doing. Show us how brilliant it is. Show us your passion, because we know that it's there, because that's one of the things I love about this place is every business that I go into, there's so many people who share our passion for engaging more young people and, of course, the science itself. But help us to do that. Tell us what you're doing in AI, in computing, in life sciences, you name it. We want to work out ways to translate that into experiences for young people. And so you'll also be able to volunteer with us and engage, spend some of your time. So we're an open door. We're a learning organisation. You tell us you've got a great idea. We'd love to work with you to make those ideas into something that changes young people's lives.
And what a call to action to our listeners. Thank you both so much for being with us today and sharing your latest news. And yes, I agree. We all need a bit more experimentation and gloopiness in our lives. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Today's show was produced by Carl Homer of Cambridge TV and supported by our media partner, Business Weekly. The Cambridge Tech Podcast is available on all major podcast platforms and on cambridgetechpodcast.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star review. It will really help others discover the show.
The Cambridge Tech Podcast is supported by Rathbones, a leading provider of individual wealth management services to private clients, entrepreneurs, charities and professional partners. For more information, please visit rathbones.com. The value of your investments and the income from them may go down as well as up, and you could get back less than you invested.
Cambridge United Foundation is the charitable arm of Cambridge United Football Club. We utilise the power of sport to improve people's lives in our community. We run a range of sessions working with different groups, from older adults to school children, and for anyone who might not have equal access to sport and activity. To find out more about what we do, visit cufcfoundation.com.